The Quran means the recitation, and it is recited, memorized, and passed on generation upon generation. The same Quran, the same Arabic, from one country to another, doesn't change. And from one culture to another, it doesn't change. From one time period to another, still it doesn't change. Regardless of the nationality or the race or the language of a people, when they memorize the Quran, it is still memorized in the classical Arabic, just as it was 1400.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والسماء والطارق وما أدراك ما الطارق النجم الثاقب إن كل نفس لما عليها حافظ فلينظر الإنسان مما خلق من ماء دافق يخرج من بين الصلب والترائب إنه على رجعه لقادر يوم تبلى السرائر فما له من قوة ولا ناصر.
There are many miracles within the Quran itself, in its predictions and in its prophecies. The reference in the Quran to science, talking about the creation of the universe and how it came about, it discusses and explains to a certain degree about the relationship between the earth and the sun and the moon and the stars and their positions and what holds it all together. Also discusses about the orbits and how the earth is winding and turning. The embryology in the Quran, discussing the creation of the human being within the womb of the mother, is also an amazing topic that has helped many scientists come to believe in the fact that there is a God and even enter into Islam. The subject of the Quran is far too big to discuss in detail in this brief introduction to Islam.
The film you're about to see explains how a human being is created and which stages he goes through to come into existence. This film is about you. A single cell in the mother's womb. A helpless thing in need of protection, smaller than a grain of salt. You too once consisted of this single cell, just like everybody else in the world. And then this cell divided, becoming 2 cells. Then they divided and became 4, then 8, and then 16 cells. The cells continued dividing. First a piece of flesh emerged, then this piece of flesh took shape. It developed arms, legs, eyes. It grew 100 billion times larger than the initial cell, and 6 billion times heavier. God performed a string of miracles and created the human being you are watching in this film, who was once just a drop of water. He revealed to man how he created him in the Quran in these words. Does a man think that he will be left uncontrolled, without purpose? Was he not once a drop of ejected semen? Then he became a clot. So he created and fashioned him, and made him into 2 sexes, male and female. Is he who does this not able to bring the dead to life? Construction inside the mother's womb goes on unceasingly. Some of the cells undergoing change suddenly begin to expand and contract. Following that, hundreds of thousands of these cells come together, and these make up the heart. This heart will continue to beat for a lifetime. In a short while, we'll see a real miracle. These cells, which stand independent of each other, are in fact vein cells. Then these cells suddenly start to join onto each other and form connections between themselves, and the cells form the veins. Let's see that magnificent sight again. How have these cells learned that they have to form a vein, and how can they do it? That is one of the questions that science has not yet found an answer to. The vein cells eventually make a perfect tubing system, with no cracks or holes in it. The internal surface of the veins are smooth, as if made by expert hands. This perfect vein system will soon begin to carry blood to every part of the baby's body. The length of the vein network is more than 40,000 kilometers. That is almost as long as the circumference of the Earth. Developments in the mother's womb go on non-stop. In the 5th week, the embryo's arms and legs become visible. This bump will later turn into an arm. Some cells will then begin to form into hands. But in a while, some of these cells will do a most surprising thing. Thousands of them will commit mass suicide. Why do these cells kill themselves? The dying cells perform a crucial function. The bodies of these cells, which die along a specified line, are necessary for the formation of fingers. The remaining cells begin to eat the dead ones, and empty spaces appear in these regions. These empty spaces are the gaps between the fingers. Why do these cells make such a sacrifice? How is it that a cell can kill itself so that the baby can have fingers in due course? How does the cell know that its death will serve such a purpose? All this once again shows that all the cells which make up the human being are directed by God. At this point, some cells have started to make legs. The cells cannot know that the embryo will need to walk in the outside world. But still, they make legs and feet for the embryo. All the information that we have so far given regarding the development of the embryo in the mother's womb has emerged from scientific research in the last 30 to 40 years. And this new information has enabled more new miracles of the Quran to be grasped. Until quite recently, it was thought that the bones formed at the same time as the muscles. But the latest research has revealed a truth that human beings were unaware of. First, bone tissue develops in the embryo, and then muscle tissue forms around the bones. The interesting thing is that this newly discovered fact was revealed 1400 years ago in the Quran. We then formed the drop into a clot, and formed the clot into a lump, and formed the lump into bones, and clothed the bones in flesh, and then brought him into being as another creature. Blessed be God, the best of creators.